Alright, first impressions. I like the feeling that I'm in a real Jeep because of the steering wheel. This is very traditional. That's important to me because you're buying into a whole cultural icon, isn't it? You want to know you're in a Jeep from the moment you're sitting down. I like also the materials that they used here. They use nice soft-to-touch materials for the dashboard and even the doors as well. It communicates a certain level of premiumness. And this is another thing that I wanted to, I guess, talk about with the Jeep because they're in a tight spot. Right? They've got this cultural icon, like I mentioned, and everybody knows what they stand for. They're rugged, go anywhere, practically bulletproof type of vehicle. But in order to sort of gain new market share and new ground and being a responsible business, they had to reinvent themselves without losing that core. So this is where the Compass fits in. You know, it's a refined vehicle by comparison to, let's say, your old Renegades or your Wranglers, but it still has to retain that DNA so it doesn't lose that base. And I like the way they did it with the Compass because it kind of retained everything, but they diluted it into something that you could live with every day. All the creature comforts are here. I also like the sunroof, especially when you're driving around at night and stuff like that, when it's not so hot. You open it up and it gives you a whole different feeling in the cabin. It's very airy. You feel like you got a lot more space than you actually paid for. And these are the little things that make the difference in this class of vehicles. That does it for me. I really do feel like sometimes you could be in the middle of the city, but you look up and you see the trees up there and you think, okay, it's a breath of fresh air. I don't feel so cooped up anymore. And after a year and a half of lockdown, I'll look for anything that resembles anything to do with freedom. Now power-wise, it's got a 7-speed dry dual clutch system here. So if you're not familiar with that system, it's got a sort of a manual feel to it. I'm an analog kind of guy, right? I personally don't mind it. I like these kinds of gearboxes. I do see the value of it. 7-speed is more than you'll ever need, by the way, I think, especially in the city. There is a little bit of a lag in the beginning, but that's the double clutch system working. It's not engaged like a automatic transmission, which has a torque converter. So you're gonna get this moment of when it engages and it doesn't engage. So if you're not used to that feeling, it'll feel a little bit different to a traditional automatic gearbox, but after a while you just forget about it and it's a very seamless transition. But I like the way it is easily maneuverable. I mean, this is a very easy car to drive. And then you've got a little bit of extra ground clearance, which is important, and this is why the segment is really boosting up. You see, we've got a little bit of a crossover personality to this car, and this is where the segment is getting really big. You're noticing more and more crossovers because we're wanting more and more out of our cars. And this is, I guess, the price of success for the automotive industry becoming so efficient at delivering us so many different models, is that now we can't go back to just it doing one or two things for us. It's got to be everything to everyone, or at least as much of that as possible, because we've just gotten used to the practicality. So these crossovers are really here to stay because they really do answer a lot more questions and fill a lot more needs than a traditional sedan. Or sometimes you could get the same thing with an SUV, but you don't want the extra weight, you don't want the extra size, you don't want all of that goes with it. So here, they've made it into a perfect little compromise. So the next question I get asked with vehicles like this is, well, is it going to be as good as the Japanese counterparts or the Korean counterparts? You know, we're so used to that. My point here is it doesn't at this level have to be anymore, because it's no longer an A to B commute. If you wanted an A to B commute, there are so many different models that you can choose from. Once you reach this level of motoring, it's about making a statement, a personal statement. It's about communicating either something about yourself or a feeling that you get, and that's with you. So it's up to you what value you place on the brand and on the whole culture that they represent.